So welcome everyone to the University of Notre Dame. My name is Mary DeVilliers. I serve as the Director of International Admissions. The Philippines is one of the countries that I work directly with. And this is, I can't even count like how many camps I have attended in terms of doing the college fair and doing information sessions for parents and for counselors. It's always a joy to work with all of you. I'm joined today by a Notre Dame student from the Philippines, and I'm going to have her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Cecilia Ignacio, and I'm an incoming sophomore at the University of Notre Dame, and I am a pre-medical science business student in the College of Science. I will live in Lewis Hall, and on campus, I'm involved in clubs such as MedLife, Student International Business Council, International Ambassador, etc. Over the summer, I have been taking 2 online classes with the University of Notre Dame, and I'm also doing an internship with the Red Cross Philippines, as well as a startup called Oh, I Get It.
Yes, so we are really excited to present to you. And as we go through the presentation, I will turn to Cecilia to have her share her experiences. And then at the end, both of us will be happy to answer questions. We have quite a bit of information to go through, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring you all into this. Let's see. Okay. Oh. I've got to go back to the beginning. Hold on. You get the sneak preview of all the other slides. Okay, here we are. So this is a nice view of a part of our campus. We are a medium-sized Catholic research university. Each of those 3 descriptors is really important to keep in mind when you're thinking about the University of Notre Dame. So medium-sized, we have 8,500 undergraduate students coming from all different parts of the United States, as well as 80 different countries. We have a very nice Filipino community as well, but you are going to meet students from many different places, many different walks of life, many different viewpoints, and different belief systems as well. Now, the thing that brings everyone together and makes it a very unified community is we have a really strong sense of the purpose of our university. It's to be a force for good in the world. So the students that are coming to Notre Dame fully recognize that the education, the resources, the incredible network that they are going to receive from Notre Dame will be channeled into solving the problems, to answering the big questions that they are coming into Notre Dame with. And I know many of you have seen a lot of challenges play out around you these past 2 years. These big questions have come up for you, and Notre Dame is an incredible place for you to explore those and to find solutions and to plan a career dedicated to solving those issues. So just know that you feel a lot of mutual support from your fellow students because they, as well as faculty and staff, really feel a strong sense of passion behind that purpose of the university. We like to say that's a mission-driven university, and Notre Dame is definitely that. And then some. So that is a little bit about the medium-sized community. We say it's a Notre Dame family because we feel that strong bond with each other. There's also a lot of tradition at Notre Dame, which I'll touch on as we go through, but just know that alumni from many, many years out will have done many of the similar things as you, similar cheers, similar events, so you feel a really long-lasting bond well through the Notre Dame alumni as well. And then Catholic, we'll touch a little bit about faith life, but know that as a university, not only are we really dedicated to making sure that you gain expertise in the subjects that you're studying, but that you're going to gain wisdom and self-awareness, and you're going to develop an inner compass. I'll go into that a little bit more when we touch on the Catholic nature of the university, but know that that's one of the things that makes Notre Dame very distinctive in the top 20 in the United States, is really that dedication to a whole person education, regardless of your faith background. And then finally, Research University. We are a Research 1 intensive university. That's the same level as UC Berkeley or University of Michigan. But at Notre Dame, there's 8,500 undergraduates and only 3,500 graduate students. So the emphasis at Notre Dame, the channeling of resources, the attention is largely focused on the undergraduate students. That's really distinctive. So please keep that in mind as you're looking at other universities as well. So let's talk about Notre Dame as a home. When you are coming to the university as a first-year student, you get randomly assigned to one of our dorms. Our dorms are single gender, so there's all boys, or all men and all women, and every dorm is really distinctive. We keep our dorms intentionally small enough to foster a really strong sense of community. So no high rises at Notre Dame. And then within the dorms, you're going to find students of all different majors, all different, grades, and then all different backgrounds, including our student athletes. And so it's a really wonderful mix for you to be a part of. The dorms are like a house system. They have a mascot, each of them. They have strong traditions. They compete against each other in sports. They have a really strong sense of service and philanthropy. They do a lot of social events throughout the year that often tie into that philanthropy. And it's just a really welcoming environment for you to feel like that is your immediate Notre Dame family in the larger Notre Dame family. Cecilia joined us in the spring from the Philippines after dealing with some of the pandemic challenges, and I wanted her to share a little bit about her experience in the dorms.
So the dorms were like really a family in the sense that they even replace Greek life. We don't have Greek life, but we don't really need it because we're so tight knit and there's so many events. For example, each dorm has a special event. Mine does something called IHOP. I live in Lewis Hall. And what we do is we do breakfast for dinner and we serve it to the entire campus community. And we help raise funds for all different things. Each dorm also tends to have like their own community or like organization that they donate to. For example, there was this one kid who had cancer, I think from Siegfried Hall, and the boys made this whole knitting project in which like anyone could come to their knit and like they donate to help for his leukemia. And so everyone is really a family. But if you're not into that, it's also totally fine. Like a dorm can also just be like a place where you live in. It's really up to you and it's really what you make out of it. So don't feel pressured, just do you.
Yes. And outside of the dorm, we have more than 400 clubs, organizations, publications, annual leadership opportunities. We're really looking for students that have already kind of shown that they have that commitment to serving their school community or their community at large in a number of different ways, through their talents or through their passions, or their dedication to research or service. Cecilia, do you want to talk about some of the activities that you got involved in when you arrived at Notre Dame?
Yeah, so for one, I'm an international ambassador. So that means that I welcome students. If they're in the Philippines, I go meet with them. I've already met with one or two people who got admitted. I also show them around campus. I help plan orientation. I also am part of MedLife ND. So we focus on like medicine, health, education for low-income families. And for this semester, because we couldn't do it in person, what we did was we did virtual things in which we like helped raise a soup kitchen, for example, and we fed over 1,000 families. I'm also part of Student International Business Council, in which we take on case studies from top companies. I took up a case study with Deloitte, for example, with like 10 other kids. And we did a project for them and presented it to the heads by the end of the semester.
Yes. So Cecilia, even just within one semester, found a lot of great ways to get involved and to contribute. So imagine what it would be like for you across the 4 years as a student at Notre Dame. In addition to the clubs and organizations, many people know us for our athletics, and you can compete in multiple sports The dorm level has over 40 sports and a really strong sense of competition. We also have club level if you want to compete against other universities, but with not such the time commitment as our varsity level athletes. We're actually really proud athletically that we have 22 Olympians who have either graduated from Notre Dame or are current students that are competing in Tokyo. So I've been actively waiting for their names to come up on the screen so I can cheer for them. So just know that if you are someone who's athletically inclined, or you just love to be a spectator, we have a really great array for you. But if you are someone that is really into the performing arts, so maybe with instruments or vocally or theatrically, we also have a really strong commitment to the performing arts at Notre Dame, and anyone can get involved. Or if you're someone that simply loves going to a good play or hearing an amazing symphonic performance, we're your school. We've got lots of opportunities for you. Oh, sorry. So I do want to touch on the Catholic nature of the University of Notre Dame. So out of the top 20 universities, we are the only Catholic institution, and we really want to make sure you understand what that means for you, regardless of your faith background. We say at Notre Dame that we are Catholic with a capital C, as well as a lowercase c, meaning universal. So we do have students of all faith backgrounds as well as no faith background, and these students all find their place and their happiness within the university in this context. So what it means is that if you want to participate in Catholic faith life, it is readily available to you. Every dorm has a chapel. There is a beautiful basilica. We have the country's largest campus ministry department. But if you are of other faith backgrounds, you are more than welcome to participate or to make your other plans in terms of worship outside of the campus. And they do provide transportation for you to go to those different churches or different houses of religion. And then if you're of no faith background, you can make this be what you want it to be. We have plenty of students that find some part of it that they want to be part of, and that's completely fine. Campus ministry also offers retreats, interfaith groups, ways to communicate with the community in a faith-based manner. So really, you have a lot of different options for how you can express that. I should also let you know that with the universal quality, that means that there are values that are built into the Notre Dame education that we really think are important for you as a future leader in a global society. So we really impart on the students through the classroom and then also from student to student, the idea of moral reasoning, of ethical decision making, of really weighing all of the options in a gray situation so that you can find the best path forward based on your own value system. So really, we're going to cultivate within you through your classes and your experiences with your fellow students and your own self-reflection, that compass that's going to help you to be that effective leader. As you've seen with the pandemic, there are times where there isn't a clear answer, where there isn't, factually based evidence to make a decision. And so by helping you to cultivate your decision-making skills and your value system for yourself, that's going to help you to effectively lead others through challenging circumstances such as these. And that is a really defining hallmark of the university. We're going to give you as much wisdom and self-awareness as we will expertise in your field. There is a requirement to take 2 classes in philosophy and 2 classes in theology at Notre Dame. But theology at Notre Dame is the study of religion itself, and it's sort of in a social science approach or, a very objective approach. Cecilia, do you want to talk about the theology class that you've taken?
Yeah, so I've already taken one theology class, and you can make it what you want to be. So for example, I took a theology class about the Bible, but it wasn't focused on Catholicism per se, more of just literary analysis. So we actually took the literary devices and compared Matthew to Luke and how the writing styles were different. So it's really what you want it to be. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And talking about the academic components leads me into talking about academics at Notre Dame. After all, you are coming to university to study your subjects and to be a student. When you arrive at the university, you will be assigned a dedicated first-year advisor. So that is a really important thing to understand. We take your first year at Notre Dame very seriously. We know some of you are having some anxieties about, well, what is it going to be like to be a university student in the US, so far from home, trying to figure out what I want to do or what classes I need to take. At Notre Dame, we want to give you as much guidance and support as you need to be highly successful in that first year. We actually have, as you can see here, a 98% retention rate. That means that 98% of our students successfully go from first year to second year. That is one of the highest in the country. So when you come into Notre Dame, this advisor is specifically trained and geared and experienced in helping you with the challenges that you're going to find as a first year student, making that transition to university life, helping you determine the best classes to determine what your path will be moving forward for the next years at Notre Dame. And so you don't formally declare your major until the end of the first year. So you might come in, as a potential accounting major, and if anything changes or you want to add new things to that, that first year is our gift to you. You don't formally declare your major until the end of the first year. So then if you have other things you want to pursue, your advisor is going to help you determine how to navigate that. And your advising will move from first year to the college of your primary major, and then you'll move forward from there. And then students can do double majors and minors across our colleges. It's very common. We have a lot of minors within the Mendoza College of Business that non-business majors can take, and that's pretty universal with all of our colleges. So the different colleges at Notre Dame are the Mendoza College of Business, the College of Arts and Letters, the College of Science, the College of Engineering, which also houses computer science, and the School of Architecture. So you will find your way through taking advantage of all those great programs. Cecilia, can you talk a little bit about the majors that you're taking on as you move forward at Notre Dame?
Yeah, so I'm actually a pre-medical science business major in the College of Science. And what's really unique about my major is that I take all my main classes are STEM, but I also have to take theology, for example, and philosophy, which makes it really well-rounded. But my electives are from the Mendoza College of Business. So for example, this coming semester, I'm going to be taking accounting and finance. I also have a minor in computing and digital tech. So I'm able to take stuff like photography, and they also teach me how to code.
Yes. So as you can see, you can really kind of pick and choose from different areas. As a first year student, you can start taking classes that will feed into your intended major, and then also be taking classes from our core curriculum, which are multiple ways of knowing that all Notre Dame students will need to accomplish before they graduate. And it will really allow you to explore a lot of new areas and a lot of different areas outside of what you might be majoring in. So thank you for sharing about that, Cecilia. It's great to see how you've kind of woven things together to take advantage of everything Notre Dame has to offer. I also want to talk a little bit about the opportunities outside of the classroom. So at Notre Dame, we are a Research One intensive university. Our faculty, and as you can see here, all of your classes are directly taught by faculty. Majority of them are tenured faculty. They're also doing their research in addition to teaching, and students can easily get involved with faculty-led research across the spectrum. We have students who are going over to our Harper Cancer Research Center. We have students who are working with data scientists on big research projects and consumer apps. We have students who are doing malaria research, students who are looking at psychological profiles in teenagers, working with students on the autism spectrum. So it really runs the gamut. We've also had students who have researched the Quechua language in terms of folklore in Peru. So really, whatever it is you want to explore, there's likely either a faculty-led opportunity, or you can secure grants and scholarships through a center at Notre Dame. It's a long name, bear with me. The Center for Undergraduate Scholarly Engagement, but CUSE for short. So CUSE actually will train you to be a competitive applicant for grants. Now, if you're someone who's thinking of going on for graduate school or professional school, this is an incredibly valuable skill to have because you're going to have to keep applying for grants as you go through those programs. So they will help you apply for money that you can then do your own self-directed research anywhere in the world. So I mentioned we've had students go to Peru to do research. We had someone go to the UK and do comparative research between 3 different cities on economic advancement through educational attainment, and so on and so forth. So if you are someone that is really keen to get involved, that's an opportunity. I also know many of you are entrepreneurs, or you're really driven by the idea of innovation. Notre Dame is attuned to this. And so for the past few years, we have strongly supported our Idea Center on campus. And it's in this area of campus called Innovation Park. And Innovation Park houses a huge number of startups who've decided to base themselves in South Bend. And so you can work with them. You can gain mentorship from them. We also have faculty who are going to help you de-risk and explore your ideas for companies and products that you want to bring to the marketplace, as well as a makerspace. So you can use 3D printing, you can use digital imagery to develop your product ideas and be supported by your fellow Notre Dame students. So those are some exciting opportunities. And I know Cecilia had mentioned taking classes through Mendoza. Non-business majors can do a minor in innovation and entrepreneurship, and they can also take advantage of Notre Dame's campus in Silicon Valley. We are based in the AT&T building in Palo Alto. So you can go for a semester, do an internship for 20 hours a week, while also taking classes on site at different companies. And then we have a similar program in Washington, D.C., where students can be doing an internship while also taking classes around the city. So depending on what you want to study, you can really engage within the U.S. on a number of great levels. We also are going to offer you the opportunity to study abroad. So I know coming to the US is already in itself, it's a study abroad opportunity, but if there is a city in the world that you want to have a professional experience in, or there's a language you want to refine, or there's just a part of the world you would love to get to know better, we offer a number of opportunities. So Notre Dame has its own campus and centers in the cities that are listed here, but we also have partnerships with leading universities all over the world. One of our recent graduates from the Philippines, Mar Diego, she actually spent an entire year at Oxford, and she had such a great relationship with her faculty there that one of her professors requested her to stay for the summer and continue conducting research with him. So just imagine, she already was really excited and enjoying her time at Notre Dame, but then she had this tremendous experience on top of it. So please know that whatever goals you have for yourself, if it's research, if it's globally engaging, you're going to be able to do all of that at Notre Dame very easily. If you're receiving any form of financial assistance from our university, it gets applied to these costs during the school year. So you can go on a study abroad experience just as you would attend university in South Bend. So please know that these options are available to all of our students. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about career placement. We have a really amazing career development center called the Marullo Career Development Center, and they start working with you as early as your freshman year. I'm going to have Cecilia talk a little bit about how she's utilized them, even with just the one semester being on campus.
Okay. So what I did is, I'm really not sure, I'm sure all of you also, like what I wanted to do over the summer and how to exactly attain an internship on a college level. So I went to them and I asked them to help me. And so first they were like, okay, let's build your resume. And so together they helped me find like what good keywords to use, how to format it, what else, how to write a cover letter. They also helped me find specific places in which I could possibly apply to. In addition, they give out a lot of free stuff. For example, free headshots, so like professional photos. That can be like pretty expensive if you don't have a DSLR, but like they take it for you professionally. They even edit it for you, and you can submit it for like LinkedIn, etc.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And as you can see, we have a 98% placement rate. All throughout the year, companies and organizations are coming to Notre Dame's campus. Where we're placed geographically in the United States, we're only a 2-hour drive outside of Chicago, and then we're kind of in the crossroads for getting to places like University of Michigan, Purdue, Ohio State. So it's very easy for companies to make us their first stop out of Chicago, or to come and visit us from other parts of the country, and then maximize on their time out there. So you will find that students are running around in suits going to interviews all throughout the year. There's big career fairs, there's big internship fairs, and then as Cecilia has mentioned, the Career Development Center is going to hold a lot of workshops and help you individually to build up your profile as an applicant. So just know that our students are very geared and very supported as they go through their career exploration. Now, this 98% is largely career preparation, but it's also graduate and professional study preparation. So our students are very well placed. We have an 87% admission rate to US medical school. It's actually double the national average. So just know that the advisors and the faculty at Notre Dame, they, because of the tradition of victory with sports at Notre Dame and our great school spirit, they want to see you win. So they are going to really help you to strategize, to find resources, to connect with networks, to be as successful in your endeavors as possible. So our students are going on to really exciting programs for graduate study, and then obviously being successful for medical school, law school, dental school, and so forth. And then in terms of talking about graduation, none of our students are really, excited to have to leave Notre Dame, but they know that when they graduate, they're always going to be part of Notre Dame. We have more than 270 alumni clubs around the world, including a very active club in Manila that has formed a really strong bond even through the pandemic. So Cecilia, can you talk a little bit about your interactions and your experience with the club this year?
So in the fall semester, I actually did college online for my first sem. So, but I wanted to become more involved with campus, specifically the Philippine Club. So me and two other newly admitted students actually reached out to the Philippine Club head, Gwen Panopio, and we told her that we wanted to take on a project. And she was like, sure, let me get you connected with like professors, and hopefully like we wanted to do some kind of TED talk. So we thought about topics that were like relevant, and we ended up thinking about data science. And so we reached out to multiple comsci and data science professors in Notre Dame, and eventually Dr. Nitesh Chawla was chosen, and he presented for the Philippines, and multiple people came. It was a Zoom conference. So yeah, it was a fun little TED talk that we set up.
Yes. And so either as a student or as an alum, you can continue to engage with alumni clubs. If we're talking about Notre Dame as a family, then our alumni are like aunties and uncles and cousins, and they're very dedicated to supporting you either as a current student or as a potential graduate. And that extends to career, it extends personally, and it also extends as like serving as this like family for each other. And I know that that's meant a lot to our alums, especially when everyone feels kind of isolated from each other with lockdown and everything. So just know that, when you leave Notre Dame, you don't really leave Notre Dame. You get to be part of that really great family for the rest of your life. And we just want to talk a little bit about South Bend. I know many of you are coming from the Metro Manila area, and you've gotten used to being in a very large city. And know that South Bend itself is a wonderful resource for our students. So we're in this area where South Bend is right next to two other cities, Mishawaka and Granger. So all three of these communities offer almost everything you could think that you would need outside of the campus environment. So we have a lot of great restaurants, both local and chain restaurants. We have a big mall that has a Macy's, it has a Sephora, it has an Apple store, and all kinds of great clothing stores and cell phone shops. So one-stop place for anything you could probably need unless you want to order it online. And then we're really close to Lake Michigan. It's about 40 minutes away from campus, and it's like going to the sea. So beautiful beaches and dunes and national parks and state parks. So no matter what it is that you might want to enjoy, we are well placed in that area. And then Chicago is only a 2-hour drive away. We also have a train that goes from the airport in South Bend that will take you right into downtown Chicago. So students can easily go back and forth when they really just need that big city fix, or they want to go to a concert or go shopping in Chicago. So you can take advantage of those transportation opportunities. But Cecilia, do you want to talk a little bit about adjusting to life in South Bend after being in Metro Manila?
Yeah, so I'm actually a big city person. I think most of you are also. But I found that going to Notre Dame and the location was actually perfect for me because everything I needed was there. Also, I was able to really focus on academics and getting involved in clubs. Also, taking like you, if you don't have a car, you can also take the train. That's what I did. That's what me and my friends did. it's actually free on weekends, and it's only $15 on weekdays. So sometimes we just like go there for a day and then come back same day trip. It's faster than going to Baguio from Manila. So yeah, or just one traffic like drive from like QC to BGC if you think about it. And you can really do so much. Like we do like homework on the trains and everything.
Yeah, no, it's really great having that proximity to Chicago and also just enjoying the campus environment. Thank you, Cecilia, for sharing that. And then I do want to move into talking about the application process and financial aid and merit scholarships before we take questions from the audience. I know many of you are going into senior year, so I want to make sure you have all the information that you need. Please know that you can reach out directly to our office at any time for information. I'm going to put my email in the chat now so that I don't have to do it at the end. But just know as you're going through the application process, if you or your parents have any questions, you can contact me directly, or you can just reach out to our general admissions line and we can all help you with what you might be working on. So in talking about our application process, we are on the Common application. That's the most common way that students apply. We also accept the Coalition application and the QuestBridge application. Are working with that organization. So please know that any of those is fine. We are a test optional university for this year and for next year. We were test optional this past year, and out of all the students we admitted in this past year, 34% did not have a test score. So please know that we are truly test optional. You are not at a disadvantage if you don't have a test score, and you're not at an advantage if you have an SAT or ACT score. The best way to determine, depending on your opportunities for testing, if you should submit your score, is that we are looking at your application in a holistic sense. So everything that you submit, academically and non-academically, gets weighed in our decision process. If you've got this test score and you're assessing everything else, does it make sense to incorporate that? Is it as strong as everything else that you're submitting to us? Or does your application stand better on its own without this test score? That's a good way to determine. But again, you are not at a disadvantage if you cannot do testing. That is why we went to test optional, because we recognize that everyone is having different challenges all over the world, especially with the pandemic. And testing has always been a challenging situation, regardless of the pandemic. So we are test optional for this year and for the next year. And we welcome your application with or without a score. That being said, how do we assess you academically if there's no test score? So we're going to look at the information that your high school provides us in the form, usually of a transcript. They'll also provide us with a lot of background information about your school to help us understand the curriculum that's offered, as well as the size of the school, the setup for the classes. So we have that information when we're looking at your grades, and we keep you in the context of your high school. So if your school does not offer, AP classes or IB diploma or even honors classes or any sort of rigor that's different from, a standard curriculum, do not worry. We are keeping you in the context of your high school. Just as the US has a huge array of different kinds of high schools, so do the Philippines, and we keep you in that context. We are going to be looking to see, though, that you have done really well with a challenging set of classes. It's important to us that you are prepared to be successful academically at Notre Dame. So we will be looking for evidence of that. We'll also look at your letter of recommendation. And I say letter because we only require one from a teacher. And so this should be someone that knows you really strongly academically and personally. Counseling situations can be very diverse depending on the school that you're attending. So from a counselor. But if you do have someone that serves in that sort of role for you that wants to provide a letter, you can submit that. That's totally fine. Just know that we only require the one, and you will be busy this year getting a lot of applications done. So just be aware that that's the only one that's required. And we use those to understand you as a student. So in the classroom, how you participate with others, how you have been as a member of teams, and then also how you are as a person. What kind of contributions have you made to the school community? How have you interacted with faculty? And just knowing and getting a sense of what you might be like as a student, as a member of our community at Notre Dame. And then we're going to look at your extracurricular activities, and we know that these past 2 years have just really not been normal in terms of engaging with activities. But we also recognize a lot of students have seen challenges that they wanted to undertake, or they have found new ways to serve others, or they've had an increase in family responsibilities. We want to hear about all of that. Many of you have gotten very innovative and have found a lot of online opportunities. I can use camp as a really great example. These tremendously generous students have taken something that was such a fun, amazing in-person event and have really done a great job of translating it to an online environment. And maybe you've done something similar with your clubs and activities at your school. We want to hear about that. So you can use your activities section. There's also the additional information section, and then there's the COVID section. So if your family has really experienced challenges and hardship because of the pandemic, please share that with us. This is a human process. All of us have gone through this pandemic in different ways, and we are very empathetic as we're looking at your application to the things that you've experienced, how you've had to persist through all of that. So please share. Universities do want to hear about it. They do care, and they do take that into account. That's part of that holistic review process. You are a whole person and you are an individual, and we need to know the things that you yourself have experienced and have overcome and contributed. Oh, and then also, finally, the last part of your application are the essays. And for us, we have just released the essays for this year's application on our website. And we actually reduced our requirement for the supplement. So this year, students have to respond to one required essay question for Notre Dame, and then they get a choice of one additional essay question to answer. And we try our best to give you a good variety. I hope that you will enjoy this year's selection. And I think that there's plenty there for you to make a good choice in terms of what you might want to respond. When we give you these essay prompts, please know that there is not an expected answer or a right answer that we are wanting to see when we get to that part. Usually, and you should know this, and this happens all throughout the United States, admission representatives save the essays for the end. It's kind of like the dessert at the end of the meal, but it's also, we've learned so much about you from all the other parts of your application. So we've seen your grades, we've seen the things you're involved in, we've heard from your teachers, and then we get to your essays and we're like excited to see, okay, which prompt did they respond to and what did they say? And does this tie in with everything else I'm already feeling about the student? So really take your time with your essay questions, especially if Notre Dame is a top choice for you. Be sincere, have others read it and determine, is this really representative of me? Don't try to write an answer that you think we want to hear. We really are genuinely curious about what you yourself responded to these prompts. That's what gets us up in the morning, is knowing that we're going to get to know a lot of really great students as we read applications. And for the most part, if you are a strong applicant, by the time we get to essays, we're like making the case for you in our minds. So just bring it all home with your essay. Just give us even more great things to appreciate about you. And so that's a little bit about the application process. The last bit I'm going to talk about is financial aid and scholarships, and then we're going to stop sharing the screen and have a conversation. So financial aid. At Notre Dame, if you are an international student or a US citizen or permanent resident, we are going to meet 100% of your demonstrated need. How does that work? So for students who will need a visa to study in the United States, at the time of application, you fill in a form called the Certification of Finances form. And this form is going to ask you if, one, will you need financial assistance to complete your studies at Notre Dame? We award across the 4 years, so you will have to answer if you'll need it at any point in your studies. If you say, yes, I will, you'll also have to fill in the CSS profile form. So we'll read you in a need-aware context, because depending on how much aid you will need, we will be able to determine if we can admit you and provide you with the financial assistance that you require. If you are a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident or a dual U.S. Filipino citizen, at the time of application, we read you in a need-blind context. That means that we don't know if you're applying for aid. If you are applying for aid, it's completely separate from your application process. You would fill in the FAFSA and the CSS profile. So as I mentioned before, all students, regardless of if you need a visa or you're a US citizen, you will have 100% of your need met if you are admitted to Notre Dame. So this aid is going to be there for you each step of the way. For international students, it's across the 4 years, so you'll get the full package right up front. And then if you're a US citizen, you just have to reapply every year. So if circumstances change or new information is provided, you can work with financial aid to make sure that that's reflected in your aid package. And I should also say that employment on campus is another way that students are providing toward their financial costs. So you can work up to 20 hours a week on the campus as both an international student or a US citizen. And that can really provide some good funding to help you offset different costs that are part of your time at Notre Dame. And then in terms of our merit scholarships, everyone gets automatic consideration at the time of application. You don't have to submit additional materials. If you get selected as a semifinalist, which is a really big opportunity, then you will be asked to provide additional information. And if you are a finalist, you will go through an interview process. Now, we're very, very hopeful that this year in the spring, that would be like a fly-in to campus, but we're waiting to see what happens with the pandemic, but they really transferred it successfully to virtual this year. So you can find more information about the merit scholarships, but please know that because of our commitment to financial aid and meeting the need of our students, merit at Notre Dame is a selective process in that only 3% of incoming students ultimately receive a merit scholarship. Students receiving financial aid are getting need-based scholarships and need-based grants. So across the board, there are scholarships available. It will just depend on the context in which they are given. But we are really wanting students to have what they need to attend the University of Notre Dame, especially if we have determined that they would be a tremendous addition to our community. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen share and we can move into taking some questions from everyone. So if you want to raise your hand or put the hand up, we will call on you and be happy to answer your question, either myself or